Yeah, guys, this was a very spirited debate, marred a little bit by both candidates talking over one another, so much so that the moderator had to ask them to stop and say, hey, guys, folks at home and here in the audience can't hear what you have to say. The focus tonight, of course, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and while the early questions dealt with things like terror and immigration, the answers were really more along the lines of which candidate has been more offensive on the campaign trail.
Honest with you, if Donald Trump had said all the things that you said he said in the way you said he said them, he still wouldn't have a fraction of the insults that Hillary Clinton leveled when she said that half of our supporters were a basket of deplorables.
Look for Donald Trump apologizing to John McCain for saying he wasn't a hero. Did Donald Trump apologize for calling women slobs, pigs, dogs, disgusting?
She apologized for saying...
Governor, it is his 2 minutes, please.
Did Donald Trump apologize for taking after somebody in a Twitter war and making fun of her weight? Did he apologize for saying African Americans are living in hell? Did he apologize for saying President Obama was not even a citizen of the United States?
It didn't take long before Donald Trump's taxes came up. The presidential debate where he made the comment that he was smart by avoiding taxes really struck a nerve, and tonight the vice presidential candidates continued that narrative.
Donald Trump started this campaign in 2014. He said, if I run for president, I will absolutely release my taxes. He's broken his first promise. Second, he stood on the stage last week, and when Hillary said you haven't been paying taxes, he said, that makes me smart. So it's smart not to pay for our military. It's smart not to pay for veterans. It's smart not to pay for teachers. And I guess all of us who do pay for those things, I guess we're stupid.
Because he's created a business that's worth billions of dollars today.
How do you know that?
And with regard to paying taxes, this whole riff about not paying taxes, and Donald Trump has created tens of thousands of jobs, and he's paid payroll taxes, sales taxes.
Senator, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to respond, and I have a question on Social Security.
A very good debate. I think both sides can claim that they had some good moments. But in the end, guys, I really don't think that it moves the needle in either direction.
And Bill, toward the end of the debate tonight, abortion came up. How do you think the candidates handled that topic?
Now, I thought that was one of the more poignant moments this evening. I thought when Mr. Kaine said that, what about Donald Trump saying he wanted to punish women for abortions? Powerful statement. And then Governor Pence coming back and said, hey, listen, Donald Trump is not a polished politician like Hillary Clinton or you, Tim Kaine. And he sometimes says things that he doesn't really mean. And of course, Tim Kaine didn't let that go by, saying this is an idea. This shows you what's on Donald Trump's mind. He has to live with the words that he says.
And Bill, two very different viewpoints from these two campaigns about what to do about immigration. How do you think those two candidates handled that tonight?
You know, I think that's where Governor Pence had some really good points tonight. The whole immigration argument and the whole policing relation in America. I thought he was on the offensive tonight, whereas in the presidential debate, Donald Trump was so much on the defensive, he didn't get to talk about immigration. Tonight, Governor Pence got his comments out about immigration, made it sound as if that there was a reasonable plan for Donald Trump and his supporters to go forward with, and that Hillary Clinton basically has an open border plan. Obviously, Hillary Clinton does not have an open border plan according to her policy, but tonight I think Mike Pence made some inroads there in the fact that he wasn't on the defensive. He was able to lay out some ideas of what Donald Trump really wants to do about immigration in America.
All right, Bill O'Neill reporting live from the vice presidential debate in Farmville, Virginia. Bill, thank you.